Hey, good evening. Welcome to the Wareham Finance Committee meeting. Today is Wednesday, September 25. And we'll have a roll call. It's Tom, Dominic, Jerry, Bernie, Stuart, Jody, and Pat. We're all here. We have a quorum. Any citizens attending? They are, but they don't want to talk yet. Approval of meeting minutes for September 18.
Make a motion to accept the minutes.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any corrections, questions, concerns? There being none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, it's unanimous. Okay, moving on to the Finance Committee matters, our first agenda is continuing on with the review of the town meeting warrant. This evening, we're going to review Article 22 and 23, which is the stormwater management. And Article 22, we have Jim here as chairman of the sewer commissioners, and Guy as director of the sewer department. And we'll start with 22. Oh, start with 21. Excuse me, septic loan program. My apologies. That's kind of a given, something we do every so many years to replenish the account, I believe. So you can loan money out to
That's through Cedar, I believe.
Pardon?
Not through Cedar?
Yes.
That's who does it, and I think this year they're increasing the amount they're asking for.
Yeah, usually it's 200 or 250, we're up to 350 they're asking now.
And I think this year, the reason they're asking for more is that we're trying to encourage folks to tie in to the sewer system, which will mean there'll be more applicants to borrow some money, so if we increase the funds that are available, they'll have more folks that can apply. So I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, I know, I home, excuse me, where I raised my children, I had to do the same thing. And that was great service, because I couldn't afford anything else to do.
How do people apply for these loans? I mean, is there?
There's an application process. They go down to somebody in the office, I forget the young lady's name, and they just do a whole application process. It's processed and they move forward.
So
Very
if there are
few
more people than there's money, they just draw them out of the
You
hat?
stop when you stop. If they want, you just stop.
If they qualify, they'll wind up getting it. If you run out of money, then the program stops until the following year, that's all.
And it's,
They put on their taxes and repay it.
yeah, part of their tax bill.
Yeah,
It's a good thing.
Yeah,
Well, at
so
least they-
we loan the money and we get the money back over
but at least they can do
time.
it that way and put it over a 20-year period.
Hmm.
Oh, whatever is necessary.
It's almost doubling it though, Bernie. They're going up $150,000.
Yes, typically,
Usually
the
it's
last one
200.
was Article 16 was 200,000.
Well, I think part of that, as Guy indicated, we're trying to get people to hook up that aren't hooked up. And there are people that have been outstanding by years of not hooking up. There was a 5-year moratorium allowed if you had just put in a septic system and sewage was going by your house. So you had a 5-year window before you had to hook up. Well, that 5 years has turned into 20 in some cases.
How large a population is it? How many?
About 88
88?
are all past the window.
And what would the typical cost be to put a connection in?
It's by length. We're looking at one now that's gonna cost the guy probably 15 grand, but they average about 2,500. Because it all goes by length. If it's, some of these homes are 10 feet to the line, and that's, gosh, you can do it by shovel. And others are great distances, and some are great depths, depending on the area and how the gravity, what part of the gravity where you are. And some have great depths, and that costs a little bit more, but they average about 2,500.
So if there are 88 out there, you're talking 500,000 bucks to.
Well, we did a
Hook 'em
percent
all
of that, because they took a number and the commission decided, because some people are just gonna do it, but there's a percent, yes. And there's no sense in going for, I mean, I went over the top, and I wanted an extra couple, 300,000, but you gotta kind of be careful how you do it, I guess. That's their program, and I know, they know the limitations and the applications, as many communities are, so they know it better than I, so I trust their judgment as to how much they need to apply for.
And if I recall, when they pump, it's registered here somewhere.
Anybody, so that's a valid point. If you pump in the town, or any town you pump in, you're obligated by the DEP to report it to the town you removed it from. Sometimes you have pumpers that come from different communities, could be many miles away. they are still obligated to send a report to the town. Now, because of Title V, on your fourth pump, it triggers an upgrade. If you have a bad system and you're pumping more than 4 times
Yeah.
a year, I can promise you we're getting no records.
You're not getting any records?
That's correct. Because if they turn it in, then there's a mandate to
Ah, I
upgrade. So
see.
I have you pump out my system and you're doing it regularly,
Pay cash.
you absolutely report me, I'm in serious trouble. Right? Because the town is gonna notify me and say, because of state law, that you exceeded the amount of pumps you're allowed per year, so therefore you will upgrade your system. And so if you have a system that's got groundwater issues and many other issues that could cost you a ton of money, what are you gonna do? You're gonna try to delay that as much as you can.
How many times can you pump a year?
I was just gonna ask if there's a lot of rain, people must have to pump extra.
Well, you shouldn't, well, so that's a good.
In
that's a valid
theory, you
point.
shouldn't,
Yes,
that's right,
because
yeah.
if you're in a high water table area and the water has no place to go, you have an
Oh, yeah.
issue. You have an issue. And in Wareham, you can imagine that we have, average 4 to 6 feet. Some areas are really deep, but 4 to 6 feet in the longest, so around the coast anyways, coastline. And so you have a septic system in that area, and you get a lot of rain, yeah, you're taxed.
We ought to just get the money and get these 88 people in compliance. Get it done.
Yeah,
And we're trying.
That's the sewer commissioner's responsibility,
Yeah,
and it says
I mean, it-
whether there's fines, fees, or
Well,
whatever.
That's, sounds good on paper,
Easier said than done.
but the practicalities of it are, from the discussion you were having earlier about enforcement. Who gets to enforce it? Who's legally, has the legal authority to enforce it? We do not.
No, you don't. I was thinking about, I was reading your charge. Doesn't include that.
We do not. Board of Health does.
Well, does the Department of Health have the
Yeah.
authority?
Yes, they do. We are working with them to get this into effect. or
Already
get
had a
this
question
effective.
on you, right?
Since we have started this, we sent out one round of letters to an area, a group of people off the list. And so far, he's got 5 hooked up. So it's working. It's gonna take time, but it's working. You know, how many of you?
It's a problem
Yeah.
with the water table
And it's becoming, actually, it's becoming more of a problem because as Guy has indicated, the water table and the problems that he's had at the plant have precipitated a lot of this next thing that we're going to, but it also, impacts
you bet.
all of these other places.
Dominic?
Right, when we bond it out, the people who pay it, or they put on their taxes, are they charged any interest or fees or?
There is, I don't know
Yes.
those numbers.
So
but there is
that,
interest.
are we making money? We bond out for the money
No, it's
at a
about-
certain percentage.
If I recall, it's about a break-even program.
It's a break even,
Yeah.
Yeah. I think
We,
you're right there.
but see, we're a government, we can't make a profit on anything. We can lose money, all right, and we do that very well.
I mean, even if you're making a couple of points, borrow more and have more people do it and tell them makes a couple points. I got no problem with that.
Yeah. And it's counterproductive. We really don't want people, you aren't able to have more people hook up, you're gonna fine them if they don't.
Yes, there's a process, and the Board of Health has a lot of jurisdiction. They really don't work for the town, they're attached to the state, so they have jurisdiction and they have authority that most departments don't have. And so using their help, they can go in there, and the letters are very, very demanding, they are very intimidating, and people will react to it.
Any other questions on this issue?
Do you have,
Jerry?
if all hitched up, do you have the capacity?
So the capacity is there, because remember, when you design a system, their capacity was designed. Now, what's causing us capacity issues is wet weather that nobody factored in. So that's a whole separate issue, but yes, to answer your question, when we designed for that area, that capacity is there.
And then you would be checking, I suppose, so that they don't have a septic that runs into the,
Septic systems at the time of the connection are
excuse me,
abandoned.
sump.
So that's a good question. I don't get into any basements. I don't have the authority to go into a
So
basement.
we can't do that.
So I can't do that. So some pumps are on their own. So if you had a wet basement and you decide to put your sump pump in, I can threaten you till I'm blue in the face. I can even get into your house, have the Board of Health, and you look at it. Once I leave, there's nothing to stop you from reconnecting. So it's a slippery slope. It's a very difficult thing to remove sump pumps. It's illegal, they're illegal federally, state, and local. They're illegal. A federal permit it not only implies, it specifically says you will get rid of sump pumps. They're illegal, they cannot be touched in the system. No, we all suffer.
There's no enforcement, no fees, no nothing. That's-
Well,
You're
again, you've got the-
you're
you're
disparaging
talking about
the
who's
integrity
going-
of the
Who's
people.
going to enforce?
You can't do that.
We cannot.
Shame.
We can request, we can, you know, beat the drum and all the rest of that, but when it comes to, you know, the tie to the road, we
Okay.
cannot enforce, we don't have the authority to do that. We do have the ability, if we know and can prove that somebody has a sump pump, we do have the ability to fine them, don't we?
We do. The bylaw allows us the right to fine them. And they can disconnect it in front of you. And as soon as you turn your back, they can reconnect it. And there's nothing you can do, because I can't sit there and watch every home 24 hours, 365.
A lot of people use their washing machine pipes they have sometimes.
Absolutely.
And they take the pipe they take the pump out in 2 minutes and
As soon as you leave, they reconnect it.
just stick it back in the hole.
It's the nature of the beast.
Oh, I know.
And
What
nobody
are
wants
the
water in
nature-
the basement.
What are the nature of the
If you
fines?
don't slap the hand for stealing the
It's up to
apple, he's
I think
gonna
it's
continue to
$300. I think the
steal.
max of $5,000.
So people would change their mind if you started imposing $5,000 fines.
So again, if I find you $300, I came to your house, you got the original fine, $300, it's okay, and you showed me you disconnected it. We're good.
Show up the
leave.
next day.
I'm sorry?
Just make a point, just make an example of somebody, it'll stop.
I agree.
Okay,
Yeah,
going a little far
$5,000,
afield
somebody's
here.
gonna not disconnect. I mean, you know, that's serious money.
Not as far
Yeah.
as we could go.
Some pumps aren't included in the loan here program, so I think,
No, I wish, I wish I-
That's a problem in every town.
It's not just, it's throughout the state of
Yeah,
Massachusetts.
it's a problem.
We're all struggling, we're all suffering. The answers, everybody's presented many type of answers. Some of them amnesty, some are fine. No one has any success. Because it's about keeping your basement dry. That's the bottom line, and you will do whatever you have to do to get it. And if I tell you, because you can put it out in your backyard legally, but you have concerns about mosquitoes, concerns about wet yard, concerns about draining to the road. You have all these concerns that you, so yeah, it's an issue, major issue, but anyways.
okay, let us move on to the next article, please. Article 22, which is establish a stormwater management and illicit discharge bylaw.
We're not, I think there's a committee doing that. It's led by, I believe, DPW. We have nothing to do with that.
Okay,
It's actually mandated by the state right now, right?
MS4 is
It is.
mandated, it sure
Mandated,
is, and I
yep.
think.
Nothing we can do about it, Bernie, we gotta do it.
and the last one is, I have it somewhere.
Funding request for process improvements.
23, yep, is the funding request for process improvements. Oh, no wonder, I got too many things in the wrong place.
The question I had, Bernie, there's no amount in the article,
Well,
Up to 10 million in the motion,
Right.
in the motion.
up to 10 million in the motion, which is the worst case scenario.
Estimated project cost for this of 10 million.
what are you attempting to do for the project?
We were there.
I mean, we were there, but I'd like to hear it tonight for the record. If someone has to write the recommendation, I think they want to know what their intent is.
I sure wish I could bring that person down and show them, it's a lot easier to see. So it goes back to, again, wet weather, we alluded to that earlier. Water table is high, there's two things that affect us. One is sump pumps, the other is infiltration. And so as a water table, and water table is rising because of wet weather. It started back in around 2014, we started noticing weather was getting more and more rainy seasons. In 2015, we had a lot of rain, a lot of snow, and a lot of freezing temperatures. 2016, we could see it. Last year, 2018, we had 3 consecutive nor'easters, and that we went 3 weeks of constantly pumping. And so all that flow hits the plant. It exceeds the capacity of the pipes, manholes, and pump stations, and all that has to come to the plant. When it comes to the plant, we have 2 options. throw it through the plant, and if it can't fit, we divert it to equalizing basins. The plant's designed for 1,100 gallons per minute, roughly 1.56 MGD, and so we get a flow of 14, 15, 18 to 3,000 gallons per minute. It has to go someplace because it can't go to the system. So we divert it to the two open equalizing basins that each a million gallon. Once they fill, we have no options. We fill them up, we put sandbags, we made a big berm in the back, because if they overflow, raw sewer will go into the river. We've had that, many times we've had that happen, and it's very, very frustrating. So the other thing, I have other options, I can open up the plant and throw it through the plant, because I can't overflow the equalizing basin. So I put it all into the plant. Of course, the plant can't handle it, because each part of the process has a specific flow rate for specific things to happen. So I'm exceeding that flow rate, so I'm blowing up the plant, so treatment stops. Especially when it gets to sedimentation, and that gets blown up, and that blows up the further back end, which the sand filters. Once I blow the sand filters up, flow goes nowhere, so it goes onto the ground. And so there's evidence of 2 areas that we blew apart, literally blew apart, for many, many weeks this year. The state steps in and they say, okay, we explain the problem to them, they understand the problem, so they're very forgiving, but what they say is you need to find a solution. So we're looking for a solution. We've looked at it, and so we said, okay, here's the things that we can do to address the back end, which would be a diversion pool, about 1.9 MGD, a million gallons, a diversion pool, so when we get up to the sedimentation, we can pump it, literally pump it onto the ground, but this time in some type of line or container. Because if it puts to the ground, it's called a groundwater discharge permit, which we don't have, and so it becomes illegal. And the second part of it is that we have sand filters, and there's no redundancy. I was thinking the other day about a very conversation like this when they built the plant, and they said, sir, we got to put redundancy, we need 4 tanks, but can you get by with 3? Well, yeah, put 3. Sir, we need 5 tanks, can you get by with 4? Well, yeah, put 4, because again, it's always economics. We have no redundancy at that facility. I have no extra tanks, nothing. Because somebody sat and made a decision, they crunched some numbers, say, well, gee, that'll cost this, let's get rid of it. And I've been involved in the conversation in one of our meetings, when I had a selectman who was on that committee back then say the very same thing. When they were done, they knew they were going to be short-sighted, but that's life. Maybe someday we'll catch up with it. It caught up with us now. We've got to make a decision. We have to do something. The plant is undersized for this wet weather. I don't blame anybody because no one predicted. Even though for many, many years we've been talking about wet weather. Some of us said it's fully, some of us said it's not true, some of us ignored it. I saw the news today and they're having the same problem in Boston. On the seafront, it's flooding out. Why? Because it's rising. It's real, we're facing it, we gotta make some decisions, we gotta do something. If we don't do anything, then the government will.
Guy, when you say the machines, different phases of this blow up, they don't actually literally, but they have a
overflow.
capacity level, and when they reach that, they no longer function? Do they
That's
shut
correct.
down?
They don't shut, well, they do virtually, because if you've got, so everything's designed by retention. I've got to hold the NOx, it means so much time in that tank for the bacteria to interact with the product. So when you put more flow, you speed up that process. So this guy may need, let's say he needs 10 hours, he only is getting 5. This guy may need 10 days, he's only getting a day. The back end is for us to clarify, and to yourself, clarify something. Put something in a jar and watch it settle out. Time it. It takes a very specific time. You keep adding water, and how much settling do you get? You get none. It blows over, and that's what's happening to our sand filters. I mean, to our clarifiers. We're blowing out solids. The solids have to go someplace. So in the back end, we have a filtration system to remove the nitrogen so we can finish polishing it. So that gets clogged with all that, with the solids, it clogs it up so it no longer operates. Once it stops operating, the water has no place to go, up and over and into an area. It just collects, it just goes onto the ground literally, floods everything.
This is one of the things that's in this project to correct or assist, is an additional filter, so that when this one's clogged, you can switch to the other one, clean that one, and be able to go back when the first one gets clogged. Right now, we don't have that.
Somebody have a
It's clogged,
question?
we're stopped, dead.
Yeah, but isn't what's gonna, if you're overflowing now, and you add just one more, it's gonna be almost perpetually in use.
I'd like to get 3, but again, it's up to 10 million. We would like to get 3. In other words, there's 3
How
there
many do you
now.
have now?
3. So we'd like to duplicate, so
Yeah,
every
okay.
process we'd like to duplicate, so we'd like to get 3. Because the 3 is capable of handling 1.5 MGD. I question that, but that's what it is on paper. So if we can replicate that, I can take one bank off, one bank on. So if the plant starts blowing up, I can divert, because I have to have flow, because without flow, I have no plant water. If I have no plant water, then I can't wash my seals and all my pumps, so I use pumps. So it's it's a bigger picture here. So I need, when I get no flow, that means I have no plant water, because I'm not having to go through the filters, nothing in the back end, so I can't flush all I've got pumps and I can't shut the pumps off.
So let me just get this straight. You got 3 existing of
Correct.
these, and you want 3 more.
That's what we're asking for. I mean, what we said is we need 3, but we would settle for 1 only because one would.
Don't settle for one.
No, I don't want to settle.
You'll be back here next year.
We may be. I really don't want to settle for anything, but I understand economics.
Dominic,
like-
come on.
I do. Are you looking for, more equipment for the plant itself, or are you looking to make more holding tanks?
More holding, more tankage, yes. And
Or
part of
those
it-
ones in the ground that we saw?
Well, and the filter, parallel.
Yeah, they're asking for three specific things: the wastewater lagoon, de-infiltration filters, and a weather equalization lagoon.
Yes.
So it's 2 lagoons.
So yes, the first up front was a lagoon, because that deals with covering, because that's mitigating odors. Because again, we've got a lot of solids, and presently we have no way of removing the solids. So as we keep the basins full because of the wet weather, then all the solids in there, as they build up, they start to deteriorate. There's nothing worse than rotting product. It decays and it stinks to high heaven. It gets to a point where it's unbearable. We
Can't
have
run another
neighbors.
barbecue?
We are running, and it's funny because some people complain, they talk about the smoke, and I'd have to run a few more, but yes, and that's masking. So we do a good job of trying to mask. So how do you mitigate it? We can't clean it because it was never designed to be cleaned. We'd like to do one that we can clean, we can shelf it and the solids go in, so we can clean it and do it a smaller size and put everything through it and take the solids out. We had talked, somebody had asked me about we were talking about putting primary clarifiers in the front end. Well, we still want to put a primary, but not the big ones because they're expensive. Now they make a filtering screen to get the solids out. That's not in that proposal, but we look at the numbers and we're going to play with that. That's something we talked about recently. We have another meeting coming up next week. But to answer your question, yes, because we have to do something to remove the solids and cover it to mitigate the odors. It's
So you want to cover 1.
We'd like to cover, we'd like to cover about 300,000 gallons, 250,000 gallons we'd like to cover. So the question becomes, I've got a 1,000,000-gallon container, can I put that in quadrants and cover just 250,000? We don't think so because of the way it's very, it's like plastic on a sand and there's no supporting for it. So that'd be very, very difficult. So next week we got another area there's an impression there. So we'd like to just make 250,000 because that's what we divert each and every day.
Excuse me,
Because
guys,
remember,
let me
we have
interrupt
to
you.
divert.
So
What
like
do
I
you
said-
want to do? You said what you would like to do. What are you going to
We'd
do?
like to put
What are you going to do?
We're planning to put a 250,000-gallon new tank with a really notched bottom to collect solids and cover it, pull out the air and treat the air so we can take care of odor issues and take care of solid issues. That's
Then
what.
you want to line that 3rd one that's,
Yes, line, because that's going to be secondary, which doesn't have the putrid smell as raw, but it has, if you will, a musty smell. And that's more manageable, and that's less of an impact to your life.
so that's
like
the one if
the
you
better.
have to use it, just goes in the river. Right.
I'm sorry?
That just goes in the ground if you have to use it.
Right now, but if we line it, we're gonna pump it back into the plant. Yes, right now it's straight to the river. It's a direct feed to the river, which is unacceptable.
And you feel 10 million can do everything you wanna do, or you say
I think-
up to 10 million, what do you?
We think 10 million, and again, when you do something like at this magnitude, there's contingencies. So you put a 30% contingency on the unknown. And then you put, like, so if I get quotes, I call 3 of you, and you all make widgets, and you say, I can get my widget for $1, I get my widget for $1.50, I get my widget for $2, I use $2 as my quote, as my, if you will, my budgetary number, because I don't know where it's coming, I've got 3
Even though
quotes.
you can get it cheap.
And then when I go in for actual bid, it'll come in what it comes in at, and it may come in at the buck. And you know, who knows, it may come in at $1.50, I'm not
But
so
you
sure.
feel that number's a good number.
Yes, I feel it's a good.
Spending that would be no problem,
Oh, no problem.
no problem.
But again, as we do this, for the sense of, as we're doing the things we like to do, it's not just about spending the 10 million.
No, I
It's
understand.
about
I
getting
know,
what we need to get
I mean,
and-
I asked it wrong, but I know what you mean.
And do the
What
budgeting,
what do
the
you
bidding.
think, it says in here that it might raise, taxes, is it gonna raise taxes or the sewer
Fees.
fee?
So, right now, the
It
sewer
says it ain't
commissioners
taxes.
have no plan of increasing the fees. We think we can absorb within our budget. Because we set aside $1 million a year for every day, if you will, capital. We do annual capital. So that may be hindered. So eventually, generally speaking, as the years progress and the age, the plant is no longer a baby, we're starting to see a lot of things happening. To be frank with you, not my call, it's policy, but yeah, rates need to go up. Rates have to go up. They just have to. because there's so much
It
money.
says transfer from available
Not for this
funds.
project.
What do we have for funds available right
We have
now?
approximately $1 million a year that we use in capital. We'll take it out of that budget.
And what is that balance right now, do you know?
No, that's retained earnings. We're not doing retained earnings.
No, it says right here, it says transfer from available funds.
The funds are available in the present budget. We budget each year for the $1 million, and
So
we
you-
spend it for projects. We'll take it out of there.
So you have $1 million that you can put towards this.
So let's say the payments are between 500, because
Well-
let's say 10 million,
Well,
let's
I
say
mean,
600,000.
How much-
Yeah, but you may have some other things that are waiting in the weeds.
You got two things in this proposal under that $10 million. $1 million of it we'd be responsible for. No help. The other $9 million, we hope to get.
9 million, please.
Yeah.
Well, you have to
We
bond it
expect-
out, obviously you have to bond it
We
out.
expect to get a no-interest loan.
Yeah.
From the SRF,
But yes, state funding.
Right.
SRF, yes.
from the state funding revolving fund. It states
So
to,
that's why we feel that we could take it out of our existing budget on an annual basis to pay that down, which basically translates into approximately $450,000 a year to pay down the $9 million loan.
So the money is available at no interest.
It is.
And we can get it, no problem?
We can apply-
To
we
apply,
No.
apply.
if they're gonna apply, because it's appropriate,
It's already
1
been
million
applied.
from the capital appropriation account, which they're referring to, and further that 9 million is appropriated from the state revolving fund, if granted, for the purpose of financing the 3 improvements. And the article doesn't seem as specific as one may want, because it says, to determine whether this amount shall be raised by taxation, transfer from available funds, borrowing, or otherwise, or to do or act in any manner relative thereto. It has to be more specific in what we're gonna do, or where we're gonna get the money. It can't be, maybe here, maybe there.
We're doing SRF funding, but when you write these things at the very beginning, I'm
Oh,
told.
indeed, I understand
And
that.
and then you just culture it as you go along and you become very specific.
Okay, hypothetically,
SRF funding is where we're going.
you failed in the SR funding, what are you gonna do now?
Then what would have to do is have to go out and borrow, and that's something that's a whole new ballgame. But again, this article's, if we don't get the borrowing, then we gotta come back next town meeting.
Well, the borrowing, you don't have borrowing in the article.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, yes, they do.
I don't think in the condition that you're, perhaps, but someone's gonna wanna know that it's gonna, what it's gonna cost and where it's gonna go.
Says borrowing.
Borrowing,
It says borrowing, indeed.
yes.
Borrowing from where, who's gonna pay for it? It's gonna be on the tax rate, or is it gonna be on your,
I see what you're saying.
user rates?
Coming out of the user rates that we presently have, money set aside, that we have $1 million a year is gonna come out of that.
The $1 million is already spoken for. You just refused, you just didn't get the grant for 9 million. We're hypothetical now.
The $1 million annual, I speak to every budget. So I figure out where I'm gonna spend my money. So let's say I'm writing my 2021 budget today. First thing I say is, what are my capital improvements I need? I have $1 million. Now I'm gonna say, I only have $600,000. What do I need? What's the priority for the $600,000? So as we get more needs, eventually rates will be raised, but not today, not for this, nothing to do with this.
You're borrowing from future budgets. You have to.
That's not a good
You have to.
business proposition.
Now, if I misunderstood the town administrator at the selectmen's meeting, he basically said you have to raise rates, and there was a committee meeting coming up shortly after that meeting. I think it was 2 weeks ago. Was it discussed? I mean, he seemed pretty firm.
We're not raising rates. The
raising
commissioners
rates.
discussed that
Okay.
rates will not be raised.
My concern is,
Raising rates.
But it says it.
you've got $8.5 million on the capital planning, which you very well know, for FY '21.
To be determined. To be
Now,
determined.
you got this 10 million. So if you don't get the SRF funds, this 8.5 million that you're projecting here will not happen.
Correct.
And that's a critical blow to the overall processing of that plant, the overall maintenance of it. There is no maintenance,
So, yeah, and I'm
because if you
not,
can't afford it.
I'm not getting into the politics, but there's some things we need to do.
I'm not getting politics, I'm just talking dollars.
Reality, I don't know how we're gonna pay for it. We have money in retained earnings, there's borrowing money. How much does the town
You
want to
can only spend
bond?
it once, Guy.
I'm sorry?
You can only spend it once.
No, I understand that, but bonding is you continually, whatever your debt is, your debt low is, you keep a steady debt limit, and whatever that is. So as we stop paying debt down here, we just come back up to this level here. Just, I mean, there's no choice, because some of these things, we have no choice. The force mains have to be fixed. There's no choice, so we gotta figure it out. I can't give you all the answers, but we have to figure it out. We need to spend the money, we have no option. Because if they blow, I'll be very frank with you, if we don't do something at the plant and we continue to spill and the state steps in and the federal government steps in, they're spending. They don't care, they're spending because they're gonna put it in a consent order and they're doing it.
What will you do if you don't get, it's again, hypothetically, you don't get the SRF funds, you only got $1 million a year. You're gonna pay down that
No, it
debt.
says you can,
But you're gonna, but that $1
You
million
borrow from
you've already
somebody else.
spent. You've already spent on that main that you just said that burst on you.
Well, basically, what we would probably wind up doing, if we don't get the funding, is go back to the drawing board and see what, if any, of the items that we're looking to do right now are delayable. And
why not
how
just look to
do so.
bond it out?
Well-
It says right in here, it says, we'll go to
What-
appropriate or authorized borrowing. You know, that goes deeper than getting it just from the state. What that says is you can do anything.
Have the option.
It goes deeper than just getting it
I
from the state.
understand that, that's.
Well, you're gonna have to bond it out, you know? If he says that it can't, we can't do without it. Right now, we have great bonding, you know, the town has the bonding, a good bonding rate, what's it, AAA right now? And, that's what we have to do. I mean, bonding it out's the cheapest way to do
Oh,
it.
yeah.
Can I ask a question? I understand $1 million is operating expenses. You mentioned there's retained earnings, which might be a savings account. How much is in retained earnings, and could you use that? Or how could you get it out to use?
I can't answer that question because that's multi-layered. Retained earnings is certified, and I don't know, so last time it was like 5 or 6 million that was certified, so I don't have an answer for you. I'll wait till they're certified when they close the year, so I can't give you that hard number. The number's there. So the town feels in state run, there's so much money you don't want to spend, you want to keep so much money into, if you will, reserves. So how much of that retained can I don't know. That's a question I'd have to ask the finance director and get his take on what's available for us, how much can we spend, what 20% would be of all our retained earnings, because we can spend up to 20%, like 20% in stabilization, and then without the monies, we can spend that money, and that goes towards the project. We were planning, you know, but those specifics I can't answer, that's general. We'll talk to the finance committee, finance director for specific numbers, but we have money in the bank. That goes deeper than me. That's something that I'm not privy to.
There's a plus there, though. There's a possibility if you got
Absolutely.
into trouble
We could-
with something that happened that you could go there. in an
You couldn't
emergency.
bond it out for as much, there is a possibility of other money.
To get back to what Bernie's been asking you, what happens if you don't get this grant? I don't know if this is written in such a way, but why don't you write this, like you have to borrow it, tell people we're gonna try to get a grant, and we'll pay it back that way, but otherwise, we gotta go do it.
Yeah, we
Don't-
can't, we can't
don't-
not do it.
Right, don't leave yourself in the position that if we don't get the grant, this doesn't happen. The town
I agree.
needs to approve this.
I agree.
Well, so somebody's gotta go back and write
We
it. for
don't
them.
have the option. I went back to the example of the plant. We had the same conversation. I can visualize conversations and, well, what can we cut out? We cut this out. Yes, is it critical? Well, as long as we don't have a problem, we can, and I don't want to go there anymore.
All I'm saying is, just write this in a way that if you're unsuccessful trying to get this better deal, we're just gonna borrow the money and do it.
Reverse it.
Well, it
Ask for the
says-
borrowing
it
and then
says
say,
that.
if
That's
you do
right.
get the borrowing, or you don't get the borrowing, or excuse me, you get the grant, you won't borrow.
Right, but you gotta write it that way, because you don't wanna come back.
Say if you don't
Right.
get it.
I'd rather not. I'd like to
Remember,
do the
the article
project.
says
It's
it.
really not, there's no option.
Okay.
You gotta do it,
Don't have
like
one.
you're not gonna get this grant.
Right.
And if you do, great.
You got one here.
But isn't that what the article says already?
It says,
I
I
think
think
it gives us
it's,
the right to go anywhere.
Right,
It
it
gives
gives
one or
them
the
the
other, but you
flexibility
want
to
the-
do whatever they need.
indeed, but you want details. If you're gonna borrow something, the town is gonna want, what's it gonna cost?
Right, so,
But in this case, they're asking for it secondarily to requesting the grant. Typically, we do the reverse. We're gonna borrow $10 million, and we'll either defray the cost as a result of receiving a grant, or we don't borrow at all because we get the grant for the entire amount.
The way this is
But-
written is, it
Excuse me,
encompasses taxation,
Right,
transfer from available,
that's right.
borrowing, or otherwise would be the grant.
But the
I
problem
think-
is,
I
when
think you gotta
people
cover
hear
it.
that,
Yeah.
they're gonna wanna know which of those is gonna happen. And I
Start
think
with
you gotta tell,
taxation and give it back to them.
I think you
Is
have to say.
this the mo, is
I
this,
think you have to say we're gonna
Not
borrow it. Now, if we
necessarily.
borrow it, here's three ways
It's reasonably
that we
what's
can
gonna be
reduce
there,
that.
though.
We
Well,
could
then someone's
increase
gonna have to
taxes,
amend the
people
motion.
wanna do that, we can increase rates, we could get this grant, we can take it out of operating funds, whatever it is. But make sure you get the authority to borrow this money, so this can go
I agree,
forward.
I agree.
That's all.
And it's not just the authority,
I think what you're gonna
What's
need
the
to
cost?
do, I think what you're gonna need to do is, depending on how this actually comes out on paper, you'd be better off amending the motion to put in or authorize borrowing, because the article says it, but the motion doesn't.
Okay,
And the motion is what they're gonna look forward to do. The motion just says to appropriate the million and then, get the money from the state, if granted for the purpose of financing. But up here, if you put, town appropriates the money, and then further appropriates and borrowing.
so put it in
Appropriate
motion.
and borrowing.
when they get around to write the specific motion that's.
Yeah, you gotta read
showing
whatever
up on
clip, what's in the
the
motion,
overhead,
Okay.
that's where you want it. And it changes somewhat, and I don't think the moderator will object, because it says the same thing, it just reverses it.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yes,
you
ma'am.
want-
Good point.
Yeah.
Do you have an update on the possibility of running the line down 6 and 28 to the?
So we're all gonna be dead before that happens, I'll tell you that.
Again, I'm probably not the person, like to be very optimistic, so I'd like to have it done in 5 years. I'd like to do it in conjunction with some things. We're trying very hard to piggyback with the present project on 6 and 20 to get that section done.
The pipe they're burying now is not ours.
No. So I'd like to bury, opposite what they're doing without hindering their project. But that's an expensive ordeal. So the question about this whole thing, there's plenty of support to do it. The question becomes is how do I finance it? That's the question. We're talking big money. We're talking good numbers, and I don't want to throw any numbers out, but they're significant. And everybody's afraid of significant numbers. But what people have to understand is that if we don't move or we don't do anything, then the significant numbers are going to be in non-growth.
I think that is one of the things you have to present. What if scenario?
Yep.
What if we don't get that pipe?
Shut
It's
down
gonna
now.
get shut down, you should have been shut down last year.
I know.
But it's a
I agree.
moratorium on all connections, so everything, no matter what we try to do
the
or
option.
want to do, the
Option
community
stop.
doesn't grow anymore.
Oh, and then cover the options you've gone through to show them that this is really our only option. We can't go down the railroad tracks, we
Yeah.
can't do this, we can't do that.
Because you
This
gotta
is what we
communicate,
And it's clear,
it
the
is a
cheapest
dire
while it's
story,
open, you might
it's
as well get it
serious,
in there. If you had to
very
Absolutely.
serious.
redo it,
I mean, we've been
God
having
knows.
You're absolutely right.
meetings ad nauseum for the last, 4 years now?
4 years, absolutely.
4 years on this pipe to the canal. And we thought we had the system with the approvals and a way to go going down the railroad tracks. And we got through that whole drill and had it surveyed and da-da-da-da-da-da. The bottom line is, oh yeah, you can put it down that way, however, comma. The cost of putting it down there would exceed the national debt of a lot of third world countries and then some. So our option that we're looking at right now is, which seems to me, it's a pretty viable, practical option because it's a straight line or straighter line than other
Actually,
options.
should be part of the master plan that they were starting to review last night at the selectmen's meeting.
I don't see why it wouldn't be, because you're talking about the growth. About 25-year growth of Wareham, a master plan sets you out a chart. You take sewer away from that chart, all that other stuff is mute.
You know,
It's not in there though, it's not even mentioned, it's not even mentioned.
Because sewer is not something the town has put on any of their priority lists. And it's now the sewer commissioner trying to present the importance of sewer. Because sewer's been, if there's a bad employee, send him to sewer. The other person, to sewer. Sewer became the kicking point of everything. And that's the reality of it.
You're the star, I'm telling you.
I don't know if I'm a star, but I'm saying
No, but I
the
mean, the
system.
sewage
The
treatment
system.
plant is a star in
Absolutely.
the.
It's all about growth.
Well, Wareham.
It's a
I have another
reality.
question, Bernie.
Well, I
What-
said, go ahead now.
What is the maximum of, out of that state money? You're looking for 9 million. Is there a limit on what you could ask for?
No, there's no limit,
There's no limit.
no.
It's
So what
askable.
happens is a pool, and the state has to divvy that pool. And they go by the importance of the project, and so we're
Well,
out
this is
there.
pretty important.
We're up in importance.
Do you know what the amount that's in that fund right now?
I don't know, I have to look up 100 million, I'm not so sure, every year changes, and they,
Okay.
because it goes federal to state and down to the users, so that pool
Let's-
is.
Why not ask, if you ask for more and you don't get it, will they give you what they can, or they just shut you down?
They give you what you ask for, but there's a danger, we've done it once already. When you get approved and refuse it, it gets kind of dicey, because they're gonna say, listen, you've done it, we're not doing this anymore. I don't wanna go there. But we asked for what we thought was realistic. I'm not gonna ask for 20 when I only need 10. I'm not going to.
You could spend 20 easily on redoing the
I understand
plan.
that, but it's gonna be project specific. I can't say I spent 20, a little bit on this, a little bit on that, I gotta be project specific. And if I wanna do 20, I write 2 projects. I put 2 projects forward, and say I got this project here, my force mains at 18 million, or whatever the number is, 5 million, or whatever, and this project for the plant at 9 million. There's 2 I put forward. And they may say, okay, we'll give you 1, not 2, they give you both, that's another. But I can't just take 1 and have it very general.
Okay.
So it's very specific.
But
What is-
they won't reduce it, say the 5 million, they'll
No,
give you
they
what you
will
want,
not
try to keep
reduce
more
it.
towns happy per
No, they'll
se.
reduce it, they won't reduce it, they'll give you, because remember, this is the back of what we submitted is 91 pages. And the backup is there. Remember, we had to beg the state to let us put this on the ground. I actually got the guy in vacation in Seattle visiting his daughter and said, listen, I got an issue. I need permission to do this, because if I didn't get permission, I don't know what I would have done. I had no option. And they gave me permission to dump it on the ground. And they said, okay, you need to address it. So we did that last year, and we did it this year. And I feel if I go back next year and say, well, we didn't do anything because we really didn't have the money, but we want to put it on the ground again,
They ain't gonna let us, yeah.
I don't think I'm gonna have that option.
Okay, so you're doing the right thing.
I think what you really have to come up with, both of you, is a list. Doesn't have to be prioritized, but things you need to do, and say, if they fail, if we don't get funding, we gotta shut the plant down. It's an either or. Either we get this, or we shut it down. Because, as in our tour, there was a lot of things that haven't been done. And the longer you wait, the more it deteriorates. And if it deteriorates enough, it's not a repair, it's a replace.
Replace, and then it's costly.
Yeah, and I would suggest within 90 days, do that, because you're ready for town meeting, the annual.
We'll try to put something together. Because,
Yeah.
you know, my first involvement with this, the assets and condition assets was my first go around with the capital improvement plan. And it took us years to do that. That valued out at that time at $100 million. Those are our needs, not our wish list, not what we'd like to have, not what we think we would like to have, what we needed. And we're working on a lot of that stuff in-house, but I gotta tell you, it's overwhelming. These, and I can go on and on for all day, but my point is the numbers we throw out, they're not artificial numbers, they're based on budgetary numbers. Now, again, there's contingencies, there's things that's wise to put in there. But they're real numbers, and what we're asking for is real. We're not just, I don't want something.
That list,
fluff.
even if you leave numbers, dollar value off it, it's more a case of every item on that list. If it fails,
It's-
it can be catastrophic, and shut the plant down.
We base it on likelihood and consequences. So the likelihood of something failing, and when it fails, what's the consequence? And that's how we prioritize
Because
it.
that whole plant is the same age.
The plant is 1970 upgrades, the recent upgrade was 2005, actually began in 1999, so all the equipment's 1999. And what we did is we upgraded it so we can become a biological nutrient removal, but everything else is the same. I've got tanks that have vintage 1972. My sledge holding tanks that I sledge every day, I'm starting to get chunks of rock and chunks of concrete.
Because that's
That's not a
acid
good
passing
sign.
through there.
That's not a good sign. And them tanks go on serious levels, like those, and I kept putting those off because of other things that rise to the top. So yeah, I need it all.
You need a game plan, starting with this, to educate this town about what we need, because in addition to consequence, you gotta put in a number of what it's gonna cost when that happens as opposed to repairing. But one of these things is gonna happen
It's gonna
sooner or
happen.
later.
Absolutely.
It's gonna
So
happen.
you better start telling people it's gonna happen, otherwise.
And you gotta get it in order to get it done. It has to be sequenced. This is what my plan is. This is why I need it done. It's not necessarily the biggest priority, because tomorrow a main may burst on me and I can't do that. But irrespective of that, this has to get done. I'll change it if I have to, but it is the plan, that's the way it's gonna go.
I agree, it's crazy.
If this passes town meeting, are you ready to go for bid?
I would, before I did anything, I'd wait for the RS fund, this is a process. If they put you on the list, then you've got to appropriate the funds, which you already did. And then by next October, we have to have physical plans to them for approval, then we can go forward. But we would start the process immediately, absolutely, if it passes town meeting. We're pretty confident the SR funding, because the state is really pushing us, because they're the ones that are telling us we got an issue. So they've supported us, and so that's a good thing. And they'll support this project, because they know it's a good project. The question is the timing of it. Once in January, they give you the notification, and then by June, you have to have appropriations in place, and then by October, you gotta have the actual plans in place, and then you go to work. And so that's the best case scenario.
You're a year
So
out.
if you were asked the
You're a
question,
year
when
out.
can shovels go in dirt, you'd say probably a year from now or so?
I would say the first shovel would physically go in the dirt, yes.
A lot of paper has to be shuffled back
A
and
lot
forth.
of paper's
Lot of
gonna be
paper, yeah.
shuffled. There's a lot of paper. And doing contracts between
Kill a
us and
lot
the
of trees.
state, it's not quick.
And this 6 and 28 pipeline, soonest, if they don't approve it now, you can even go back for it, is 2028, right? Isn't there a 5-year window?
Absolutely.
5-year window, yes.
There's
Yeah.
a 5-year moratorium on that
I mean,
highway.
we're talking about
Well, I
2030s,
thought it was 10.
if this doesn't happen.
5-year moratorium, on putting anything on that highway, we can't dig on that.
Can't dig through the new
5
concrete.
years.
State road was 10.
So it's 4.5 years before they pave it, and then from that day, so it's 10 years out. If I don't get it into this section, I'm 10 years out.
Will the state pay for that?
That's,
No, I beg them, the state, I'm trying to, again, right now, the state's not, but I'm trying to get the state to allocate, I'm trying to get the DEP, I'm just talking to everybody, and again, there's a
Well,
lot
you better
of.
hope you get that grant, because if you get the opportunity to go down Cranberry Highway, you're gonna have to borrow. It's gonna have direct.
We're gonna borrow, this borrowing's not gonna be out of the question on that.
No, I mean, this is now, if you don't get that grant, that's 9 million you're gonna borrow for that, and then you're gonna wanna go down Cranberry Highway.
Oh, yeah, we're talking
Yeah.
about that.
You
That's-
know, when you start looking at the plant and get into the details on the damn thing, I mean, this money that we're looking at right now is really a drop in the bucket compared to what it needs to have happen. The pipeline alone, I mean, to put that down there, we're looking at trying to regionalize with that. With
Yeah,
other
the only way we're
towns,
gonna subsidize or successfully.
You know, and.
I mean, you've
when
got a
that
lot of
happens-
communities interested in that baby.
Yes.
Well, you got them, they're interested,
committed.
but they're not interested. It's one of those deals. They're interested to be a customer, but not interested to be a participant. Two different numbers.
They wanna invest, they'll charge me a rate, but I don't wanna invest my money.
And,
invest your
you know,
money.
and from our standpoint, and looking at it practically, if we can't get 2 more towns on board as participants, that sinks a regionalization aspect. Sinking a regionalization also puts a clamp on the potential for federal dollars, state dollars that we would get under a regional thing. So, I mean, it has a lot of impact and need for the town, and we need it for the town to grow. The other areas around are
Warren
going
and
to need
South
it.
Plymouth and Marion.
Well, you got Bourne, South Plymouth, Mass Maritime, Marion, and I'm sure you're gonna have, like Mattapoisett, I don't know where they go right now, but they don't come this way yet.
They go both ways.
They don't quite know which way
They go for Haven and Marion, they go both ways.
But, so, as this whole area grows, not just Wareham, but the entire area grows, you're gonna need the expulsion capability somewhere. You know, the whole of South Plymouth has got nothing but septic systems, and at some point in time, the clamp's gonna come down on them, whether it's this year or 15 years from now, it's gonna come down on them, that they're gonna have to do something.
And the 2 towns, Bourne, they're rehabbing their plant right now. Marion is redoing their lagoon.
Actually, building, they don't have a plant to rehab, they're building a
They
plant.
don't
Part
have
of
the
problem-
ability.
Well, that's gets into this particular thing. They're redoing theirs because EPA is gonna come down on them. They've had buys for quite a while, and now all of a sudden, somebody kicked the donut or something, and forcing them to do stuff. And they've got a much lower base of people
Mhm.
If
to deal
Marion
with than we have, so.
didn't agree to join us at the time, because they said they would, it was actually the idea of the EPA.
Yeah.
And they heard about our project, we presented to the EPA, and they said, you need to get Marion involved. 'Cause I know the situation Marion's in. If Marion balks, the EPA is not going to go light with them, and they're gonna make them go out, they're gonna spend millions and millions and millions.
Well, they're on the verge because their lagoons,
Well,
they're
the
contributing
coalition
to,
sued 'em.
Well, their lagoons, the problem with the lagoons is they're not lined.
yeah, and they're not lining them. They refuse
Yeah,
to.
and so, yeah, and that's why because we're doing online lagoons, and that scares me, but, yeah, so Marion, and there's, that's gonna be their deal, let them figure it out, but we're presenting it, we're also trying to present some economics of it. Corin has a group that's out there trying to present economics, if you do it this way, if you do it that way, of a cost analysis, and they'll make the decision. But for the whole region, it's the only way to go. On the Cape, they have the same issues, I think it's Harwich, Yarmouth, and someplace else. They're looking at a regionalization plan that's gonna be well over $150 million, and then some. And you talk to individual communities, and they're choking, but they're saying, what are our options? What are, because we can't do septics anymore, because septics are destroying, and we're all getting our TDM, what we can load daily, nitrogen into the bay, we're all getting those numbers, and you gotta meet those numbers. And septic systems will never meet those numbers. And so you gotta do something, and they know that it's a heavy, heavy number, but the selectmen of Howard says, well, what are our options? We gotta figure out how to do this. And so those are out there, that's public knowledge, it's out there. So we're not the only ones trying to regionalize, we're not the only one with the problems, it's throughout the area. We just have to address it.
And unfortunately, they're asking what are the options, and there aren't any.
There are no options, there's no options.
Okay,
It's already been tested on a pipeline, at least for the reports that we get back, that if we could get that pipeline through, that's got the capability of handling.
Well, I remember that I was at the first meetings that they had there, and the change is enormous from what we're allowed to dump now to what, once that is in there.
Up down to that, you go up 9 times.
It's the best solution by a mile.
Absolutely.
And it's the only one of,
It's really the only viable
Yeah,
one right now.
I mean, the otherwise, you've gotta build more
Well, and the
structure.
thing is, if you're gonna look at,
You have a 60% increase in your plant. Bingo.
The Agawam River
at a
can't take
50-year
that.
run,
That's the trouble, the Agawam's done.
yeah.
It's done.
I mean, if you look at 50 years from now with this town, what's the population gonna be? What's the population of this whole area gonna be? You know, unless they find another way to take care of the,
now the redevelopment authority wants growth, and there's no place to grow. Yep. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
My pleasure, thank you for having us.
Thank you.
so much fun.
This coupled with our tour really tops it off.
Thanks, guy.
Thank you.
I couldn't have had this much fun staying home.
Good night, thank you.
Night, guy.
Gentlemen,
Good
ladies.
night.
Okay, the only articles we have left are the 2 for the school. And Kim's on vacation, apparently there was no one else over there who could have stood in for her, so we'll schedule them for next week. Those are the last 2, I believe, that we will be seeing. Is there any discussion you want to do right now of those 2? I can, excuse me, when Kim comes back, from vacation, I can let her know what your concerns are, so she can bring either information or something.
Well, I think for the 2 that have a serious surplus, representing about 7, 8 million, what's the reason for the surplus? I mean, they asked for X amount of money, and one of them, they didn't even spend half of it. But I think these were specific projects, and now they just want to put it in some pool, and who knows what they're gonna do with it.
And it's about $80,000,
Yeah, some of them are nickel and dime, but 2 of them are big.
indeed. And
And I'd like to know if it's legal. I brought that up to you before. I still question that.
it would seem that it's going into an operational account, which would be part of their budget,
Well, that's-
because the only difference between the existing account they have in their budget is they move the words around. So effectively, it's the same operation.
But these were specific, my only thing, these were specific items that were voted, the PA system, the first thing.
Yes.
And that's
Right, they
surplus.
can't use them, but if they put it in that fund with those 3 names, technology, maintenance, and equipment, it opens up to everything.
Well, I think the first thing is, why is there a surplus?
That's a question, of course.
Why is there a surplus?
They didn't spend it.
Well,
It's a
just
feasible roof study.
When you put in an
It's a
article,
$2 widget versus a $1
Yeah.
widget.
Oh, I don't think so.
Well, some of them are, cause
I mean, one of
the
them-
Deacon's
one of them
roof,
is-
the feasibility roof study, that was like 20,000.
Maintenance of the building. They
So
return,
that-
you wanna give back almost 52,000 out of a $95,000 request. Something happened, they're not doing something. I can't believe that they
Which is it, which is
got
it?
it so cheap.
They take their best guess. I can tell you, I put an RFP out. You have to take the lowest bidder, which was 55,000. The
The
next
reason
highest
they-
bid was 110,000.
And the
So
reason
there
they,
can be a big
I think
difference.
they're closing.
I'm saying that
because that's why
sometimes,
they're doing
you
it.
know, they're taking their best guess at this PA system when they went to town meeting was gonna cost X number of dollars, but when the RFP goes out, then it could be something totally different.
That's fine, so if they just got a better deal, they did all the work,
Yeah.
give us back the money.
I mean, that's just my,
This
that's
is the
that's
same,
just my guess.
this is the same thing as
Why
CPC.
is this even an?
They didn't spend the money, they put it back into the account.
Yeah, just, they
Let's
want
say
the money to
that-
come this way. This is not a.
That's why they didn't spend it.
We're capital
No, I don't
items.
wanna
Yeah.
say anything,
So if
I
the
just
capital item
want,
wasn't spent, it goes
one
back into a
person
fund,
to
and you
talk
want the
at a
money for
time.
something else.
That goes
and
back to it.
that's
Yeah.
not
That's right,
happening.
that's exactly right.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
They got
Gentlemen,
a
gentlemen,
conversation going over
Pat
there.
would like to listen to you,
This
but
one's got
you- when you're-
a notation going, and then you throw in your 2 cents, and that's how this meeting is going.
I'm sorry, Pat,
And-
that's my responsibility. I apologize. But typically what we do when we close out an article with surplus, we close it out and it goes back into the general fund. And this is so ambiguous, and it doesn't even tell us who's gonna be in charge of the fund.
Goes back to the town.
No, no, the way they have it here, it goes into another fund.
No, I think what he's saying is it should just go back to the town.
Yeah.
Period.
I mean, I spent,
That's what we
this is
typically
what I
do.
expected to spend, I didn't spend that much, so usually if a good business guy says, well, you're gonna spend it, you're gonna take it, bring a project forward or something like that to make sure it gets spent. But they didn't do it, so it's,
Through you, Bernie.
Mhm.
Tommy, but it's not gonna go back to it's gonna go back to the school.
no, it should not go back to
Well,
the school
well,
because
no, it
they've
was already
written-
given to, it was given to the school. Just like CPC, they have certain housing accounts and everything, they didn't spend the money, it goes back into that account. So this money was already given to the school, they're just gonna transfer it into one fund which they can use. It doesn't go back to the town, because it was already given to the school.
Yeah, when I saw this, I said, you can't do it because you've already got an approved budget for the year 20, fiscal year 20, and you're putting more money in that budget that's already been approved, that's
See,
not
they
right.
don't, they name it different
That's right.
than the line items they currently have in their budget.
So
It
it's not,
goes to technology, maintenance, and equipment in the Wareham Public Schools.
Yeah, they can't do it.
a fund. It's going to the Wareham Public School Fund for technology, maintenance, and equipment. That fund has nothing to do with their budget.
Okay, well, as a committee,
Are you saying
I
they
think,
should get it or they shouldn't?
They should.
bring it up
It's
as
their
it
money,
is,
they
they
already
can
got
put
it.
it, they can put it in any way they want, but we as a committee, or I as an individual would vote against that, because it's in expense, we're giving them right to overspend their budget for.
The similar
It was
line
already
item they
approved.
currently have in their budget is $690,000 in that account. And we're giving them another $80,000. My issue, whether or not it's legal, I'm not sure, because we always intended when there's a surplus or balance left in any one of the articles, we close it out. CPC, we close them out to their particular account that they came from originally. And this one, I think we should close out also. That's my view. They have no information as to who's gonna be in charge of the account. We could give it to Derek,
No, you can't.
and, well, all we have to do is amend it, say it goes to the town.
Why don't we take
administrator.
it as it is here? They're not gonna show up and tell us what
Indeed.
they can't
Okay, those are-
convince me that's
yeah.
any different.
I'll let Kim know, those are our concerns, and she had, when she comes before, she'll know those questions have to be answered.
But let's get some of these things checked off.
We are. I'm just trying to follow the agenda.
Bernie, one more thing regarding that.
Yes.
It says it right here. Transfer. You're not adding to a budget, It's already there, they're only transferring it from their old budget into a new line item. You can't take it away from them, it's already been appropriated, trust me. Telling you now, you cannot take that money from the school.
If it was a single appropriation in the article originally, but it wasn't, it was for multiple departments within the article.
Now, this is all from those, just, what do you mean by, what do you mean by multiple, explain that to me.
In the original article that appropriated, that say, take that first line item.
Yep.
There was 4 or 5 other items within that article, but for different departments, for capital purchases.
I don't think these were all from capital.
Yes, they were, here.
Yeah,
All of these are from capital?
What's the article number 10?
yep.
I think the general ledger account all starts with 1,000.
That's all the school accounts.
No,
Yeah, in
school accounts are capital.
Article 2 of FY16, we had a
Sure. I don't know
plow
what
truck,
accounts, but you see how they-
LED streetlight upgrade, fuel pumps for a recorder, police taser replacement, and EMS supervisor vehicle. In Article 26, the partial roof and boiler replacement. That was for specific. Then in Article 2 in fall of 18, we had EMS for an ambulance and equipment. For school, we had the school security and municipal maintenance. We had a road grader. In Article 19, Article 1, FY19, we had Division of Natural Resources for floating docks, WPCF for a trailer and bypass pump. We had Deacon School, middle school, high school, police EMS, municipal maintenance. So each article had a multiple department request. I'm not saying it is done, it's just, that's the evidence. And that's why they say it's a multiple article that they're coming from, not exclusively for the school. So it's an ambiguous thing to do. I think we need some answers for that.
I
Yes,
think,
Pat?
yeah, because I think, you know, from what I was listening to, I would say, I'm a teacher, and they gave me $5,000 to use in my class to help the students. And I didn't, I overestimated what I needed. So I got bargains on the stuff to give to the kids. The kids did their job, they did what they had to do, and I didn't use the whole $5,000. Part of it is still sitting with me. And that's basically what these items are.
Exactly.
So they're taking, yeah, but against you, and what your thought is that money that was given to me, it could be taken back to where it came from. And say to
Yes.
the principal of the school, hey, listen, I was really energetic with the stuff for the kids, and we didn't use the whole $5,000, so I'm giving you back this amount of money.
I think the one difference, what you described and what's happening here, if they would come forward and said, you know, you gave us $90,000 for this PA system, and we only spent 30 because it's taken longer, we need the other 21 carried forward to finish that job. That would be different. That's different than, because if that teacher said, I didn't spend $5,000, but this year I want the extra so I can buy more stuff for the kids, it's for the same purpose. What they want to do here is take these extra, you know, what they've saved, and dump it into some account that may have absolutely nothing to do with what this money was approved for.
That's right, and I
don't think
don't
that's
think it's right. I don't think it should be done.
Okay, and we'll ask the question next week, and we'll get all our answers.
Yeah.
Anybody
And that's
want,
my 2 cents.
anybody want to bet?
Personally, I don't.
Oh, wait a minute.
Personally,
Ron,
I
there.
think of it as, we gave it to the school, they expeditiously used the money wisely, they had leftover money. All they're saying is, since we didn't spend what was actually allocated to us, can we use that money for something else, given the needs that we have? I think if we tell them no, we are gonna disincentivize them to ever go below budget again.
Could I ask a question? What if this number was $500,000?
I don't care what it is. We said, here, we took a pile of money and we said, here, you can use this to meet these needs. They got all 5 of those met below what they thought they were gonna spend, so let them use it for something else in the school.
What if their request was overestimated? Then we were awarding
They
them.
couldn't-
for
they couldn't- they couldn't
Next
spend
year's
all.
budget be
I just sat here and said he
it.
overestimates every department does that. You have to give yourself margin in case the bids come in higher than what you're
And
expecting.
they
There is a-
didn't, and they didn't come in higher, they saved money. It happened at an October town meeting, which is a capital meeting, and all these are capital expenditures that the town specifically approved for those items. Didn't spend it on those items, it comes back. They want more money for a capital item, they do a second warrant.
I agree
asking
with
for
the legal process of it.
Goes
I'm
back to
just
the
saying, what you're
school
telling them next time is
workout.
they're gonna say, you know what? I could get a sound system for $30,000 that would satisfy my needs, save $60,000, but, you know, they're gonna take that money away from me.
I'm gonna spend, thank you.
I'm just gonna buy a
Thank you.
$90,000 sound system
Now,
that
through you-
I don't need.
through
That
you,
seems
Bernie.
less
Listen
efficient
to how,
me.
listen to every item here and then how they wrote it. Okay, they're gonna put it into a new fund, technology, maintenance, and equipment fund. The first one, equipment, PA system. Feasible roof study is maintenance. Athletic, repair is equipment. Maintenance of the building is maintenance. Chromebook is technology. Everything that they're gonna put here, they're putting into a fund to use it for what they got the money for. You ain't gonna get it back.
Yeah,
You're not gonna get it
but
back.
My answer to you on that
Mm-hmm.
is if people pay attention, they'll jump on it. They'll jump on it. Because first of all,
They're gonna do
our
what he just
meeting,
said.
our meeting is on the TV. They're gonna watch it. People watch it.
Okay.
They're not, maybe not watching it now. Are they watching now?
No,
No.
we're not live.
No, they're not. We're not live. So, you know, it gets out to the people. They could turn around and say something about it when it plays.
The ultimate decision maker on this will be the moderator and town council. And how they'll rule, I don't know. Claire hadn't reviewed that with him as yet.
But they're
It's gonna be the town, they can just say no.
It could be
They're
different.
gonna do exactly what was just said.
It could be precedent, could be a number of other things.
This will be the last, if you
don't
take
know.
this money from the school, be the last time you ever get a dime back from
We
them ever in their
never-
lifetime.
This
We
is
never
the
get
first
money
money
back from
that they've
anyone.
ever given back to the school. They haven't done it for 6 or 8 years.
Yeah, so.
This is
you know,
showing good management and how the system's gonna be work. If you need it, we're gonna get you the money. If you don't spend the money because you've gotten a better deal or you're doing it differently, the money comes back to us.
Okay. Who
Fight
wants-
again. When I send my wife to the market with $5 and she happens to get a sale.
You get change back?
I get the 22
Oh
cents
my
back.
goodness! I never get change back!
Okay, with all this discussion,
Yeah.
who wants to take a bet that we don't spend more than 10 minutes on it next week?
Well, maybe, maybe not. If we start asking these same questions and
I'm
if
just saying,
you
my 2 cents,
come
that's
at
all.
me
No,
and
Okay,
I come back at you,
that's fine, I love it.
okay, I have to stop the discussion there. I didn't think it'd go down this way, but by all means, I'm glad, as I said, I'll let Kim know of our concerns, so she'll come prepared. And our next item is to vote on the town meeting articles. We'll go down them one at a time. I'll call for a vote on those we've reviewed, but also those that have been approved by the selectmen. They've, last night, they reviewed the articles, and the same ones they did not vote on them previously are still open. So, Article 1, feasibility study. May I have a motion to approve? No, I'm asking for positive motions.
Yes.
Motion to recommend? You can, to recommend. And if it's a negative vote, that's fine, but Robert's rules requires positive motions. Article 1, on the feasibility study. May I have a motion, please?
Motion to recommend.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any questions, concerns? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
It's a vote. Opposed? Abstentions? It's a vote. Article 2, authorization for special legislation. That would be the retired widow of the police officer.
Motion to recommend.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any discussion? There being none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? It's unanimous. Next one would be Article 6, PEG access receipts. We do this just about every town meeting, and this is the only way we can transfer the money received from the franchisees to XTK, no, that's wrong, WCTV.
Make a motion for favorable action.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any discussion? There being none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed? Abstention? It's unanimous. Next one is the solar pilot agreement. Motion to approve,
So moved.
to recommend, Motion's made, may I have a second, please?
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Unanimous. The McKinney-Vento funds, this is the one that we haven't reviewed from the school committee yet. It's a housekeeping issue.
Make a motion for favorable action.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any discussion? There being none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The vote? Unanimous.
You're gonna wait on 10, right?
Yes, the next one is 11, the harbor services permit receipts.
Make a motion for favorable action.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any discussion? There being none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? It's unanimous. The onset period debt payment.
Make a motion for favorable action.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? It's unanimous. I didn't ask, I apologize for any discussions. Number 13, CPC, returning unused funds from capital projects.
Motion for favorable action.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any questions or concerns? There being none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? It's unanimous. Article 14, Shangri-La Playground Bill.
Motion for favorable action.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any discussion?
May I have a question on this one?
Yes.
It looks like a large portion of this is the fact that the town has not been maintaining the grounds, their property. Am I right about that?
Yes, you're right.
Yes, and it's gone on for an extraordinary
and-
number of years.
Yeah, so I think that $200,000 is way high for a playground. And the town has really taken advantage of the CPC funds to do something that they should be, has really been their responsibility. I'm not saying it doesn't need it, but, I mean, I'd give them $100,000 or ask out how many locals are gonna contribute to it, have they gone out and looked for sponsors?
There's approximately 500 members of the organization, that's the neighborhood organization.
Yeah,
And the person who was before us was the leader of it. And she has done a great deal of work, and the volunteers have done a lot in cleaning the place up and starting to maintain it. It makes it reasonably useful. It serves approximately 1,500 homes in that area, very densely populated.
yeah, I know the area, I know
Yeah.
the playground.
Yeah,
But it just seems like $200,000 for
A
a
lot of money, yeah.
playground and equipment. I'm not saying we shouldn't do it, but it seems like that's a lot of money out of
yes,
CPC.
Jody, go ahead.
You know, the questions I asked the other night about, kind of piggybacking over, is I wanted to see a plan, what they're putting in, and I wanted to see a budget. I personally don't think 220,000 is a lot for a playground. When you see how much some of that equipment costs, it's astronomical, it's insanity. But I am really bothered that there wasn't more backup paperwork on this, as much as, you know, everybody hates cutting down trees for paperwork, but I wanted to see a plan. And I wanted to see a budget, and that would kind of answer your question. If you see that spending $80,000 for jungle gyms, I don't know if they make jungle gyms anymore, but whatever, I mean, that would relieve some of your ideas, but I'm really bothered that, yeah, she's doing a wonderful job, there's tons of volunteers doing a lot of work up there, and a lot of in-kind work's being done, I get all that. But I wanna see a plan and I wanna see a budget. And I brought that up that night, that it's just, you know, I don't
Did
think
you
it,
get a copy of the application for a community preservation grant? I'll scan it and come send it out to all of you.
why is all that stuff in there?
A lot of it is.
The only good
They,
thing about it.
they get about $600,000 to $800,000 a year with this surcharge. And we're spending 25% of it or more on this playground. It seems like it's not quite right.
Yeah.
Was Lukey CPC?
Huh?
Yes,
Was Lukey C, how much was that?
I don't recall what Lukey was.
I think that would give you a good comparison point.
Yeah, it was about 100, wasn't it? But they went out and raised money, they did a super job.
They did fundraisers and stuff,
Yeah.
yeah, they had
And
fundraisers.
it's a nice, it's really a nice park.
The lady who was here was going on down to a list of in-kind services that she's receiving in this project. So they have gone forward. In fact, the only one she hadn't because Dominic brought it up in terms of that isn't power out there, because they're even bringing in cameras that are gonna be connected with the police
They have
department
to,
for
yeah.
security and all. But Dominic brought up about the power, because they were gonna be solar powered. And I think within the next couple of days, Dominic encouraged her to call Eversource and get some freebies from them, because they'll put a pole out there just to have a write-off to supply power for a light.
Go back to the plan then.
Yeah.
I mean,
Why don't we just pass over this?
But it's
week for the
CPC
plan
money, if they
and
don't
budget?
spend it, it goes
Okay.
back into their
Yep, we got
fund.
another week.
have
Yeah,
them
we'll-
come back next week and see.
Yeah,
Stuart, a good suggestion of going past, and so we'll move on then. Article 15. The
I mean, I'd
Wareham
like to
Youth
retract my
Soccer Field.
motion too. Bernie?
Yes,
All right, I'm gonna retract my motion for favorable action on Article 14.
okay, thank you.
Yep.
Article 15 is the Weymouth Youth Soccer Fields. I was up by there today, or yesterday, I recall, and they're doing a lot of work around there. And the printout they showed us of the smaller fields that you referred to, you were wondering if they're gonna be all full size and that. I didn't see where they were going to be, but then again, it's a work in progress.
Yeah, if you go out and walked it, you know, I mean, and again, I'm gonna go back to the prior motion a little bit. The plan they came in with, soccer did, they gave me more information than I wanted. I mean, did you see the booklet? I mean, they
Yes, they
answered
were
every
very
question I could
professional
ever
about it.
think of coming up with.
Well, between
and I-
softball and soccer out there, they're starting to make use of
Yeah.
this field.
Yes, indeed.
But after seeing the diagram and stuff, I could see exactly how that was gonna work, you know, it
Make
was
a motion for favorable action on Article 15.
second.
Make motions made and seconded. Any other further discussion? There being none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? It's unanimous. Article 16, Tremont Nail clean up the interest payment. We've almost committed ourselves to doing this because we did it at the annual, I believe, last year.
I make a motion for favorable action on Article 16.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? It's unanimous. The Articles 17, 18, 19, and 20, they're all zoning. We opted to pass. And have a motion for
Refer to town meeting.
17, 18, 19, and 20 to refer to town meeting.
I'll make that motion.
May I have a second, please?
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, what did somebody say?
What are we doing?
Town meeting, what is
Just,
it?
we're not saying we recommending it or not recommending it, we're gonna let town meeting make the decision.
Because it's a zoning,
That's a
and
zoning
that's not
thing.
something we
It's no money, no
review.
nothing, Tommy.
No money's involved.
Okay.
Yeah. it's-
Would you rather not?
I don't care.
Okay.
yeah.
I just didn't know what he meant.
Well, yeah, the non-money items, town meeting's gonna make the decision at the end of the day anyway, they don't need our recommendation one way or the other.
In at least 3 of them, there's only one word changes in each of them. Okay, all those,
So what we did?
just approve the bid, make a motion to refer.
Oh, okay, I'll make a motion to refer.
May I have a second? Oh,
Second.
Dominic, yeah, that's okay, we,
Yeah.
made and seconded, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, they're all unanimous. Article 21, the septic loan program.
Make a motion for favorable action on 21.
May I have a second, please?
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any further discussion?
This is important if we can get those all those houses.
That's why they're looking for 150,000 more.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, they ought to be, some pressure on those to get those done.
Yeah, he didn't have enough knowledge to suggest that the 200,000 initially borrowed was insufficient, that they ran out of money. That was a question we should have asked, I think. But now the 350,000 should cover. It's a good project. I took advantage of it myself many years ago, because it's been an ongoing program for many years. And I had an old 1889 I was dumping into an old well, and with 3 little girls, there's a lot of showers going on and all. So when they came up the street, jumped right on it. Okay, may I have a motion, please? Did I have one? I have one,
I
yes,
made one,
thank you.
yeah.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? It's unanimous. Article 22, establish stormwater management. That's the,
That's the one the state's making us do.
yes, we're compelled to do that.
I'll make a motion for favorable action on 22.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? It's a vote. And I think we're in the explanation, we'll advise that we were compelled to do so. 23, WPCF funding request. May I have a motion, please?
Motion for favorable approval, or whatever.
Yep. May I have a second?
Second.
Motion's made, seconded.
Discussion.
Any discussion?
Bernie, where we said that he should amend it, is there something we should do about that, by the way it's written? Remember we mentioned it should have the motions in written right, I mean, what do you wanna do? You
We
wanna,
can make a recommendation to approval, but advise that the wording is unclear. But the intent, we approve of the intent,
okay.
but the wording is unclear.
But when you write up the explanation, you just say that this is either or. Either we're gonna do it, or the state is
It'll be
gonna
done
make us
for
do it.
us.
Yeah.
And I think there's a list of who may have that article, Tom. I wonder if your name's on it.
I'm on 22.
Dominic's got it?
Want me to do that, what, 22 or 23?
23.
23, okay. All right, I'll do it.
Okay, all those in favor say aye. Opposed? Abstentions? It's unanimous.
But I come away with this as we need a much bigger article or a much bigger review of what that's going on.
If it's acceptable to Claire and town council, then it goes the way it is.
Yeah, no, I'm not, we can't change this,
No.
it's too late, but man,
Yeah.
we're just waiting for the event to happen and then we're reacting rather than be out ahead of it.
I think this is like building a new school. If all he does is brings these things once a year, nobody wants to vote for this stuff. He's got to paint the picture of a disaster. And, you know, what it means, why this sewer system is essential to the growth of the town. And we gotta sell this to the town. Nobody's gonna vote to spend $100 million if they don't think it's critical.
I've watched the,
And it won't happen this way,
No, I
when we
watched
have these discussions.
I watched the meetings, and it's almost as if they know what they should do, but they just don't have the courage to cross that line.
Is the master plan addressing this then?
No, so there's, in the master plan of the 20, there isn't a sewer mentioned in the whole damn thing.
No, I haven't seen the new one.
Oh,
The old ones
sorry.
haven't.
I'm sorry, I apologize. I haven't seen the new one either. The previous one mentions nothing about sewers, nothing.
I mean, it really is key to this town.
It's critical.
And this region. I mean, it's a hell of an asset.
Well, it isn't just key. If these things break, it doesn't mean we don't spend the money, because the government's gonna make you spend the money, and they'll spend it for you, and it'll be a hell of a lot more than what you'd otherwise spend. It's not like, this is, you know, okay, if it breaks, okay, the town goes down the toilet, we forget about it. You're gonna have to fix it.
Yeah, get out the super glue.
Yeah,
Pay me now or pay me later, basically.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like we have a choice. So let's do it ourselves, but somebody's gotta make the case for this. This is not an effective way to do it.
I've had some conversations with Jim, and he's of the like opinion. It's now, has to be now. And it's a matter of getting the entire group, as well as Guy, on board. And unfortunately, Guy is so deep into this, he's all over the place. He was coming tonight and he won't come up and say, I have to have this done. And then this is done, and then this is done. And it's almost, he's like a
But this is,
scattergun
this
approach
is,
to
this
it.
is Derek, or the selectman coming up
The-
and
Well,
saying,
actually,
this
You
is
know what,
what,
I'll
this
say,
is what I see.
Bernie, through you, I'll say it on TV. The sewer commission and the people that are on it and what they're doing, in my opinion, being too placid. Okay, they need to be a lot more forceful. Okay, I love them all, and you know, they're not paid or whatever, they're doing their great job. But you're at a critical stage to where, speak up and let's get the sparks flying and get something done. Because Guy wants to get it done, but like Bernie said, he's spread too thin. So he's gotta rely on them to do it. And the guy Jimmy, great guy, my opinion is a little too placid to get the job done.
Well, and they haven't had a rate increase in 5 or 6 years. I mean, this is the first year, I guess, that they're having a rate increase in
And
a long period of time.
I thought they weren't having a rate increase.
No, that's not as a result of this, but I think they had a rate
But
increase
that's
this
a
year.
legitimate question. Should this all be handled by a rate increase, so only a portion of the town pays for it?
That's the
Or should
trouble.
it be a tax increase?
Thank you.
But we gotta start the discussion, because these things take time. We didn't approve this school in 3 minutes, you know. It was a lot of money.
Bernie, through you, you hit the nail on the head. If you just raise the sewer rate, you are not getting the whole town behind you, Tom.
No, I
So if
understand.
you do it through taxes or do it through a special fee, then everyone's paying, because you know what really bothers me? Everyone benefits from the sewer plant, and not everyone's paying for it. Okay, we have cleaner water, we have a lot of things, and it's on the backs of the sewer users. And it's been that way since inception, and that's something that I got a big problem with. And you know, you're gonna do something like that, you're gonna try to either raise taxes or do something. I'm not for raising taxes, but you can't do all this on the back of just the sewer users, because everybody in the town benefits.
Yeah, but at the
That's
same
my
time,
opinion.
never to raise the rates. It's
All right,
not a way
no,
to
no,
go.
the rates need to be raised for reasons,
Yeah,
do it, I'm not saying that, but to do it just for that particular reason,
No,
is
I-
wrong,
this is way too big.
yeah.
This is it's a town issue, there's no
Thank you.
question about it,
Yeah.
but the users certainly have to
Yeah, there's-
recognize it.
60% of the town is sewered, and 100% of the town's need for sewer.
That's right. And benefit
And
from
and
it.
I don't suggest they need in the context that there needed to be connection. It's that the town needs it just for its own life.
Yeah, and and it's, this, what we're driving on is something that's been around since, what do you say, 71?
Yeah.
I mean, nothing goes forever.
I don't
Maybe
know.
I will, but I don't think anybody else is going to.
Keep trying, keep trying.
But I look at it almost like the schools, everybody benefits from good schools, everybody.
Absolutely.
It's in the same class.
But
Anything but different.
it's paid for by everybody.
It's paid for by everybody.
Thank you, that's the
We're
whole
probably
key
all
here.
empty nesters sitting here.
It's the whole
but
key.
I get it,
Everyone pays for the school, not everyone's paying for the sewer.
right.
Yeah.
But everybody benefits from it. Everybody
Thank you.
benefits from the schools.
Thank you.
You know, everybody's children's at one time.
And this is
might
much
benefit
more of a
from the school.
regional view. I mean, I'm for getting together with the finance committees of Marion and Bourne and stuff like that, and start, see if we can do more things together.
And I look at it too, you know, Wareham's an ocean community. If you ever had that disaster and lost your beaches, even if it was for a season, I mean, it could be devastating to a town, you know, its economic structure and stuff, I mean.
No,
I
you don't have sufficient other,
Well, this is written up in the National Geographic, I mean, this has had a lot of publicity. And we've got the Buzzards Bay Coalition behind us, and with pretty good leverage in
Yeah, they're
the
doing a
State
good
House.
job, they're doing a good job.
Yeah, so we can get it, I think we can get it done, but we've got to,
okay. Gotta move on here, because we're almost, I'm sure everybody or there's someone wants to do an adjournment, but we have one more issue after this. The Article 24 is the plastic bag reduction.
Do we vote on this? These petitions?
Yes,
Um,
motion to approve?
I'm against it.
Okay.
Plus,
So how do you-
I would
Bernie, let me
refer
ask
to
you a
town
question.
meeting, I mean, it's really.
So do you,
Do you wanna refer it?
I'll make a motion, refer it to town meeting and let them, at the
yeah,
end of
but
the
it
day,
has
they're
a,
gonna
has
decide.
a, has a,
You make a
has a
motion to
money
what?
benefit.
Refer it to town meeting.
What?
The town
Has
meeting's
a
gonna
money
vote.
benefit.
No money, not costing the town any money.
Yeah, but it's not even that, what they're saying in terms, I think they're all,
Personally, yeah.
all concerned is about the plastic bags blown in the street. It's not doing good for the environment necessarily. I mean,
Well, I
that's why I passed that thing out, is it's, if everybody think we get rid of plastic bags, we're all of a sudden our
No.
temperatures are
But
gonna
don't-
come down and everything.
Jody, you made a motion to refer?
Yep.
May I have a
Right.
second to it?
Second. For discussion.
Yes.
I will just do you, I mean, we're saying we're doing that because it doesn't have a financial aspect to the town. But in a way it does because of the refuge.
Well,
Yeah,
no,
right.
it impacts every business.
Well, the cost of, the shopping costs are gonna go up.
Yeah, I think
I
we
mean, you
should
don't
vote, I
use
think we should
plastic
vote,
bags
I know, I
down.
think we should vote on it. I don't think we should refer it to town meeting because of the financial impact.
Okay, I had a motion to
It
refer.
was inserted by Norma White, though.
Yes.
There's a petitioner article.
We don't generally vote on petitioner articles.
Oh, we're just referring to it now, yeah. We reviewed it, of course, because it has a financial impact.
Oh, okay, because I didn't think we voted on those.
We haven't, well, we're referring it now, which we typically do, we don't leave it blank.
But I mean, that we even discussed it, you know, that it's,
Oh, because it had a
An
financial
issue.
impact. It was great. She had a right to have an appearance. Do we have a
Town
second?
Learned a lot from
The
it.
town looks for us for our vote.
May I have a second for the referral? Motion to refer? Motion's made and second to refer. All those in favor say aye.
right.
Opposed?
No.
Abstentions? 7-1. We're just referring now, Don, you know, we understand. We're not
I understand.
recommending, okay. Good.
4 years down, we're all gonna have to do it
What?
Now, did everybody see what their potential assignment is for the articles? Any,
anyway. I agree with you, but
anyone have an issue with what they have been assigned?
I don't know what they do.
You have, I was, put you down for Article 4, which is the transfer of cash.
Oh, is that what I'm down for?
Yes. Some of these may end up being consent agendas, which means you'll be off the hook for presenting it.
Everybody feels that they're doing this, it's like voting for flag.
If you want to swap an article with anyone, just let me know. Who
What
you
do
swap
I
with.
got? I don't know what I got.
You have Article 23.
That's all?
Yes.
Just one?
There's
Oh,
very
boy.
few. There's
I'll
only,
give you a couple, you want? Huh?
That's okay.
Tom has
whatever.
15 and 2.
Yeah, never tell your boss you're bored. You
Pardon?
always want, you never tell your boss you're bored. You always wind up with more stuff to do.
That is always a mistake, of course. Yes, indeed. Okay, now the other issue we have is the school building committee activities. There's been some concern of what has been happening of late, and it is growing to a significant issue. There's a couple things going on over there. The latest one, and it's in the minutes of the meeting, so it's no problem in discussing it, that they had an addendum to the architect's contract. When we originally went out to bid in 2016, it was a lump sum payment. And that's what we've been operating on since then. Not a problem. The cost contract and the lump sum, the difference really is if there's a pristine location, such as the Minot School, the Minot School is not there. We've known what's been there for 50 years, so there's no problem possible with hazardous materials, et cetera, et cetera. So lump sum is perfectly fine. There's no anticipation of unknown things happening. In the cost contract, there's always the potential, so it's cost plus. So the services the architect would be providing for us, if there's anything that was unforeseen or gone above and beyond, we are liable for those extra costs. That was fine. Mount Vernon, our architect, was perfectly acceptable, and that was put out to bid under those conditions. June, there was a meeting between Chairman Jeff, Chad, our OPM, and Mount Vernon with MSBA, the auditor in there. And he says, I don't like, and this is the phraseology I got from Chad's email to me as an explanation. The auditor said he doesn't like lump sum contracts.
Why?
He doesn't like them. I didn't get another explanation because I wasn't there. He wants it to be changed to a cost plus. And so they went before the committee. I didn't realize what was going on because I was sitting there. And the committee approved it, so they signed an amendment. The amendment is retroactive to the beginning of the contract. Now, there's no outstanding charges that I'm aware of, but when it was originally bid, it was a lump sum contract. If you had a cost plus contract and you went out to bid, you might have other people who may bid on it. And that's a public document. Now, we have a concern because now he has changed the contract and also suggested that if we don't change it, we could put our reimbursement in jeopardy, which I don't know either because we have a contract with MSBA for a certain level of reimbursement, 74%, providing we meet their criteria, which is not an issue. Our concern is now they have changed the ground rules of that contract for one. And whether or not it's legal, we're still debating that. And what I'm concerned about is if it happens, it may end up that I, as chairman, would have to take action to correct the problems over there. And I just want you aware of it, because I'll be acting on behalf of the committee.
Is the town council looking at this?
Yes, he is,
So let's wait and see what he says.
Yeah.
It's either
Indeed.
legal or it isn't.
indeed. But the issue is though, if he deems it illegal, I have to or should take action to prevent any further, and then have to go back and correct the problems.
But does it put our 74+% at risk?
It did not, but as it was phrased in.
I mean, could the lawsuit put
No,
at risk? Okay.
no. We have a contractual agreement with MSBA, which is fine. No one's, they were very generous. We benefit greatly from it. And as long as we meet their criteria and schedule and the like, there's no.
It sounds like
But this new guy come in and he's a mid-level executive because you look in the MSB hierarchy and his position doesn't come up.
sounds like he wants to break the contract in a way, or rewrite it, which
Well,
is
he's already
wrong.
done because
It's not a horrible idea. I mean,
I suspect what happened is, according to following the emails, whoever this architect is, or the manager of this thing, they don't want to change it because they're doing really well. They're coming in way under the lump sum. And the state person is probably saying, well, geez, if they're that far under, well, I don't want to reimburse this town for money that we didn't have to spend. So let's change it to the cost plus basis and keep their feet to the fire and don't let them spend so much.
let's see, he doesn't have authority to do that.
I have no idea whether he does or
Yeah.
doesn't.
No, it's
Probably
written-
shouldn't talk
The
about it
town
till you hear
ha-
from Bowen.
Yeah, the town has a contract with Mount Vernon and with PMA.
I'd like
And
the
it's for a
lawyers to
specific
find this
amount. But the idea is we can't change it, it's a contract. And it was signed,
I'll wait till I hear from the lawyer whether they
Yeah.
can do it or not.
but I just want you aware of that issue because action may have to be taken. And it's derogatory, it is embarrassing to a lot of people, but it will have to be done.
Frank, can you bring this up again to the board, what you hear from Mr. Bowen?
I certainly will.
Thank you.
As I copied you on all of the communique that I have, because I wanted you aware of it, because the finance committee, we are an agent of town meeting, and when a town meeting isn't in session, we are responsible for making sure everybody adheres to what they approved. They approved a contract for a certain amount, and that's what we are supposed to be bound to do.
Was the vote specifically that this would be a lump sum contract at town meeting? Or did they just approve the expenditure of $90,000 or whatever it was?
The contract was negotiated by the committee, and then it went before town meeting. Not specifically the contract, but the total appropriation, which included Mount Vernon's contract
I
costs.
understand, but they didn't, the town didn't vote on the form of contract.
No, the town meeting did not
Okay.
vote on it.
Okay.
It's just assumed it's part of the package.
I talked to Judy about those reports,
Ah, yes.
and she didn't understand any better than I understood.
She's only an
But
accountant.
well, I mean, this gets you in a whole issue, is the systems that she has are archaic. and there's got to be an investment in our overall accounting
Oh, indeed.
systems with computers
I've
and
had
stuff like
conversations
that.
with Matt over that issue.
But what I pushed her for is that in those reports that come out, we ought to know, was the job on time? Was it done on time and within the projection? Because he sent us out that schedule of all the costs and how they march along the various months. So we ought to be able to get an indication, is the project is running ahead, behind, over, under?
That's another issue. There's an accumulation of issues. This one in particular that I had mentioned with the contract is sort of the topping. Because as far as the committee has been concerned, and David and I are both attending, there is a line item for bills. No one has any documentation what those bills are, or the amounts other than a lump sum to say, we have paid X number of dollars up till now, period. There's 3 members on the committee who initially see those invoices. They sign off on them based on timing, so we can have it appropriate, but they're supposed to be presented to the committee. The committee has absolutely no idea what the invoices have been for, or the specific amounts of them.
Well, somebody, if this goes through, changing it from a lump sum, someone's gonna have to go back and reconstruct that, because we may have overpaid them if it's a cost-plus contract.
That's the issue that we've been building on. There's certain actions that I, as chairman, can take. And you can't do it lightly. You have to have substantial reasons for doing so, and you have to substantiate them. And I've been accumulating these issues. And this is a very serious one that has occurred, and it's really, I just don't know how they could sit there and say, oh, Mount Vernon was perfectly agreeable, for whatever reason, as you suggest, Stuart, with what the contract amount, the original contract amount was. And now they come up with a cost plus.
It sounds like you're trying to change things in midstream, but that's...
Well, I was talking with someone last night, and they said it goes back all the way to procurement. When you put something on the register, central registry, that's your contract. And it says lump sum in the contract. Now, if you change the contract, and he did it retroactively, and it's one thing if you have an incident that causes you to say cost plus is a practical thing to do, and you do an amendment from this day forward, that's a different issue. But when you're retroactive to the very beginning, that means the original contract that you bid on, or put out the bid, is incorrect.
I think you need to worry about what Bowen thinks.
Oh, indeed, and Rich is working on it.
Yep.
Okay, anything else anybody wants to bring up? There being none,
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
motion's made and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Abstentions?
AB wants to get on this committee.